Shalom, family. It's your girl, Shawnee, from the Talk Truth with Shawnee channel here on YouTube. And I'm coming to you once again with another time of sharing, family. But you know how I roll, family. First, I want to take time out to thank all of my subscribers. It means so much to me, fam, that you take time out of your day to watch my videos, to leave me comments, and also to hit that like button. Thank you so much, family. I really appreciate you. And to those of you who may have been watching your feed on YouTube and you saw this video and you said, that looks interesting, let me check that out. I want to take time out to thank you as well for taking time out of your day, your afternoon, your evening, your morning to watch this video. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate you as well. All right, family, Talk Truth with Shawnee presents They Were Leaders in the Land of Their Captivity, Babylon. Now, family, you got some mores in Israel, and you got some people in Israel. If you listen to them, family, you think that Israel cannot do nothing to help themselves. But that is not what the Torah teaches us, family. That is not what the Word of God teaches us. And we're going to look at some examples of leaders in Israel while Israel was in captivity, family. They led not only Israel, they led the foreign nation that they were in captive to, family. And we're going to kick it off, and we're going to start it off with Mordecai. All right, family, you know my saying. Let's get it. Boom, 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 boom. Let's go. Let's get it. Let's go, fam. All right, family, let's talk about it. Mordecai, a man of action, a man of faith, who along with Esther saved his people and became a ruler. That's right, family, you heard me correctly. I said Mordecai became a ruler in the land of Israel's captivity. Yes, family, and we're going to talk about it. Family, see, the leaders in Israel, they don't teach you this, family. The mores in Israel, they don't teach you this, family, that Israel was ruling in the provinces, in the lands of their captivity. And we're going to talk about it, family, right now. You're going to learn that the book is called the Book of Esther. And rightfully so, y'all wanted it called by that name. But the Book of Esther contains the acts of Mordecai. Family, you're going to learn that Mordecai was unyielding in faith to Yah. You're going to see that Yah raised Mordecai up from sitting at the king's gate all the way up to becoming a ruler in the land of Babylon. Mordecai, let me tell you something, family. King Ahasuerus, he had so much trust in Mordecai because Yah raised Mordecai up that King Ahasuerus, he actually gave Mordecai his ring. And if you know anything about the history of the Medes and of the Persians, family, you know that when that ring is given, it means something, family. It's a ring of power. Do you know, family, that here you have a Hebrew man by the name of Mordecai making laws. I said making laws and decrees in the land of the Medes, in the land of the Babylonians. Do you know, family, that Mordecai had the reign? King Ahasuerus gave Mordecai the reign over 137 provinces, from the land of the Medes to the land of the Chaldeans, all the way down into Ethiopia, family. And we're going to talk about it in this time of sharing, talking about Mordecai, a leader in Israel. But here we go, family, while Israel was in captivity. So for these mores and people in Israel to go around saying that we can't do nothing, that is a bona fide lie. It's a bona fide lie. Yes, we can do something in the lands of our captivity, but we just got to have faith like Mordecai did, and Yah will raise you up, family. So you know what? Let's get it. Let's go. Now that I done gave you the background on Mordecai, let's get it. Let's go. Let's check Mordecai out, and let's see this man of faith. Let's see this leader in Israel, not just leading Israel, but leading also to those indigenous people of the land that Israel was in captivity to. Let's get it. Let's go. But before we go, family, and start to get into the time of sharing, family, let me say this. Before there was a Daniel, before there was a Nehemiah, there was a Mordecai. Because Mordecai and Esther are before Daniel and Nehemiah and Ezra, family. And I wanted to make sure that you understand the time frame, family. Mordecai is before Daniel, before Nehemiah, before Esther. Okay, family? All right, now let's get it. Let's go. Mordecai, a man of action, faith, and perseverance, Okay, family, so I took time out to look up the definition of perseverance. Now watch this, family. Definition of the word perseverance: steadfastness in doing something despite difficulty or delay in achieving success. And we know, family, already that Mordecai went through difficulties, he went through delay, but in the end, Mordecai achieved success because Yah raised him up. Okay, family, so now let's look at this, family. Who is Mordecai and which tribe did he belong to? Let's get into it, family. Okay, family, Esther chapter 2, verses 5 through 6. Now in Shushan, the palace, there was a certain Hebrew whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jahir, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite. So now we know that Mordecai was of the tribe of Benjamin, okay? Verse 6, who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captivity which had been carried away with Jeconiah, the king of Judah, who Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away. So now, family, we know that Mordecai was of the tribe of Benjamin, family, okay? That's the simple part of it. Let's move on to the next time of sharing, and let's get into it even more. All right, let's get it. Let's go. Okay, family, so in this time of sharing, you're going to see something very interesting. So let's just get on into it. Esther chapter 2, verse 7. And he is Mordecai, brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter. For she had neither father nor mother, and the maid was fair and beautiful. So Esther was gorgeous. She was a gorgeous Hebrew woman, whom Mordecai, when her father and mother were dead, took for his own daughter. Okay, so we see that Esther is the cousin to Mordecai, okay? So we see that Mordecai was Esther's older cousin. Mordecai wasn't that much older than Esther, and I'm going to prove it to you in the scriptures. Right here in Esther chapter 2, verse 20. Verse 20. Esther had not yet showed her kindred, nor her people, as Mordecai had charged her. For Esther did the commandment of Mordecai, like as when she was brought up with him. So Esther was a little bit younger than Mordecai, but during that time frame, Esther's mother and father died, right, family? So Mordecai, he loved Esther, his cousin, so he took Esther under his wing. And that's the reason why I wrote right here, Mordecai was not that much older than Esther. They were around the same age, family. But look at the character of Esther right here. And look at the character of Mordecai. See, we're supposed to look out for family like that, family. Okay, let's move on to the next time of sharing. We are in just the beginning stages of this, family, because this is going to go so deep, family. Okay, so let's move on to our next time of sharing. Okay, family, the one thing that you're going to notice in this time of sharing, family, is that Yah always had Mordecai at the right location at the right time to hear something that was going on, family. And you're going to see that Yah is going to work it for the benefit of Mordecai, family. Okay, family, so let's get on into it, family. Remember, family, I told you that Yah always had Mordecai at the right place at the right time to discover something. Okay, let's get it. Let's go. Esther chapter 2, verses 21 through 23. This is the plot to kill King Ahasuerus, okay? The plot to kill King Ahasuerus spoiled by Mordecai. Verse 21. In those days, while Mordecai sat in the king's gate, two of the king's chamberlains, Bigthan and Teresh, of those which kept the door, they kept the door of the king's gate, they were wroth, they were mad, and sought to lay hands on the king Ahasuerus. Verse 22. And the thing was known to Mordecai. Remember I told you Mordecai was always at the right place at the right time. So this thing was known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen. Okay, now we already know the story of Esther, so I'm not going to go back through that, how she became the queen. Okay, I'm not going to go back through that. Okay, and Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name. So Queen Esther, she went to King Ahasuerus and she told him that, wait a minute, this man, this Hebrew, by the name of Mordecai, he done heard two of your chamberlains, Bigthan and Teresh, they was talking about killing you. Okay, so let's read verse 23. And when inquisition was made of the matter, what was the matter, family? That Bigthan and Torash, they wanted to kill King Ahasuerus, right, family? Yes, absolutely. It was found out. Therefore, they were both hanged on a tree. And it was written in the book of the Chronicles before the king. Now, who is the king at the time? The king is King Ahasuerus, family. So the plot was spoiled. Who is the one that heard what was going on? It was Mordecai. Remember, I told you, Yah had Mordecai always at the right location at the right time to discover something. Okay, now let's move on to the next time of sharing. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Let's get it, let's go. Okay, family, Esther chapter 3, verses 1 through 15, we're going to read. I know it's long, family, but believe me, family, some stuff going to get revealed here. Okay, so Mordecai's arch enemy, Haman the Agagite. Verse 1. After these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha the Agagite. I hope I pronounced that right. And advanced him, and set his seat above all the princes that were with him. All right, family, let's break this down. Okay, family, so we see King Ahasuerus, he raises up Haman to a position of power and authority in the land of the Medes, in the land of the Chaldeans, in the land of the Babylonians, in the land of the Persians, family. Haman becomes a ruler over 137 provinces, family. And it's going to become very clear to you, family, that Haman, he represents the hatred that the world is going to have for the Hebrews when they're taken off to a foreign land, the lands that we are in right now. He represents those Gentiles and those heathens that are going to hate Israel later on. Mordecai is a foreshadow of the way the world is going to treat us later on, family. And okay, let's get it. Let's go. Let's read verse 2. Verse 2. And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. So we see Haman in this position of power, right, family? But Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence. So you got everybody in the kingdom in Shushan. Every time they see Haman bowing to him, they're pretty much kissing his butt. Right, family? But then you got Mordecai, the man of faith, the man of perseverance, family. He's not bowing to Haman. And it makes Haman very angry. It makes Haman so wroth, family, mad. And we're going to see what happens with that, family. So let's move on to the next time of sharing. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Okay, family, we're continuing on with Esther chapter 3, verse 3. Then the king's servants, which were in the king's gate, said unto Mordecai, why transgressest thou the king's commandment? See, they was getting ready to be messy. They was getting ready to start some mess. Well, let's see what happens. Verse 4. Now it came to pass, when they spake daily unto him, the him is Mordecai, and he is Mordecai, hearkened not unto them. Why did Mordecai not hearken unto the words of the king's servants, family? Because Israel, the Hebrews, we don't bow to nobody but Yah. We only take the knee to Yah, Most High. Blessed be the name of Yah. Now let's continue on. That they told Haman. So see, here go the messiness right here. They ran to Haman and told Haman. Let's see what they told Haman. To see whether Mordecai's matters would stand. Now, why does the scriptures tell you Mordecai's matters would stand? Because remember, King Ahasuerus, he raised Haman up to a position of power and authority, and he also too allowed Haman at different times to use his ring, which is the king's signet ring, family. Okay, so let's move on. The matters of Mordecai. For he is Mordecai, had told them that he is Mordecai, was a Hebrew. All right? Now verse 5. And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him Mordecai reverence, then was Haman full of wrath. Haman was like, oh, who you think you is? You're not bowing to me? Don't you know that the king did this and the king did that? As far as I'm concerned, and you're not going to bow to me? Who do you think you is? That's the attitude that Haman had. And you know what? You got a lot of Hebrews in Israel that got that same attitude. And these things should not be, family. We need to get rid of that Haman spirit. We need to get rid of it in Israel. Because it is alive and well in Israel. And Yah don't want it to be that way. We are called to love our brothers and sisters with a pure heart fervently. And if your brother and sister did you wrong, we are called to forgive our brothers and sisters, even as Yah has forgiven us for Messiah Yeshua's sake, family. All right, now let's move on to verse 6. I just had to take time out to share that. Okay, verse 6. And he is Haman, thought sore to lay hands on Mordecai alone. Haman was like, what? I'm going to put these paws on you. I'm going to put these hands on you, Mordecai. Haman was that mad that he wanted to get off his donkey, get off his horse, and put some hands on Mordecai. Okay? Now watch this. For they had showed him the people of Mordecai. Wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Hebrews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai. So you got these troublemakers. They was egging Haman on. And Haman got so mad at Mordecai that not only did he want to put hands on Mordecai, he wanted to put hands on the tribe of Benjamin, who Mordecai came out from. Not only did he want to put hands on Mordecai and put hands on the tribe of Benjamin, he wanted to put hands on all of Israel to destroy them, family. Yes, family. Okay, let's move on to the next time of sharing. Look how mad Haman got, that his anger went from one man to a man's tribe, to a man's nation. Look how mad Haman. And family, I'm telling you, is an example of the world hating us now. Because the world hates Yeshua. The world hates the tribe that Yeshua comes from. And the world hates Israel as a nation. Family. Oh, family. Oh, it's now we get ready to get into the steak and the potatoes. Let's get it. Let's go on to the next time of sharing. But look at that example of Mordecai and Haman. Haman got so mad he was ready to get off his donkey. He was ready to get off his horse, and he was ready to fight. He was like, we getting ready to go toe to toe. Hebrew, Mordecai, let's get in this boxing ring, because I'm getting ready to take you out, brother. And Mordecai, look at Mordecai, standing there strong. Standing there like a strong Hebrew Benjamite. Hallelujah to Yah. Let's get it. Let's go, family. On to the next time of sharing. Okay, family, we're continuing on in Esther chapter 3, but now we're in verse 7. In the first month, that is the month Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus. Now, remember, family, that Nisan is the same as Abib, okay? They cast Pur. That is the lot. So they was casting lots, family, before Haman, from day to day and from month to month, to the 12th month, that is the month Adar. Now, family, check this out, family. The plot of Haman to kill all of Israel because of his hatred for Mordecai. Haman was so filled with hate that for Mordecai that he wanted to wipe out all of Israel. So what did Haman do? He devised a scheme. He devised a plot. He took up crafty counsel. Now let's see what happens. Verse 8. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered abroad and despised among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people, neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. Do you see that cleverness right there, and that crafty counsel, that scheme that Haman had devised against Mordecai and against Israel? Okay, verse 9. Now watch this. Now Haman is going to manipulate the situation. Watch this. If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed, and I will pay. Look at that. Mordecai was not Mordecai. Haman was willing to pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those that have the charge of the business to bring it into the king's treasury. Look at that, family. Okay, so we see, let's break it down. We see Haman he went to King Ahasuerus, right? And he lied to King Ahasuerus. And he was manipulating King Ahasuerus. King Ahasuerus had no idea that Haman was talking about his wife, Queen Esther, people, right? King Ahasuerus didn't have no idea, neither did Mordecai, because his hatred, not Mordecai, Haman. Haman's hatred for Mordecai and for his people was so great that it blinded him. Okay, so we see Haman tells King Ahasuerus, listen, I will even pay for the assassins and the army to go and kill these people. Look at Haman's hatred. And you got some people out there like that now. They hate people so much that they are willing to hire somebody to kill them. You got that going on now. But just look at the mindset of Haman, and look at Haman's hatred. Oh, family. Oh, here we go. Let's move on. All right, let's go. We're continuing on in Esther chapter 3. Now we're in verse 10. And the king took his ring. Remember, family, what I told you previously in the Solomon video, that once a king of the Medes and of the Persians, once they do a law, a decree, and they give their ring, and it's signed with the king's ring, the law cannot be broken. Right, family? So here you got King Ahasuerus. He's being manipulated by Haman, and he doesn't know no better, so he gives Haman his ring, right, from his hand, and gave it unto Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite. I always butcher that word, family, so bear with me. Please forgive me. The Hebrews' enemy. So we know Haman was the enemy of the Hebrews. And why did Haman hate us as a people? Because Mordecai refused to bow to him. Haman was like, wait a minute, if I can't get this slave that's in captivity to bow to me, and everybody else bowing to me, but I can't get this slave to bow to me, wait, I got a problem here. And Haman's hatred grew so much that he wanted to pay. Haman wanted to pay King Ahasuerus to kill all the Hebrews. Now, you know that's some hatred going on there. But remember what I told you. Haman represents the world that we live in today, because Haman is a shadow of how the world hates us. Right, family? Okay, so let's read verse 11. And the king said unto Haman, the silver is given to thee, the people also. To do with them as it seemeth good to thee. Because remember, King Ahasuerus, he didn't have no idea who Haman was talking about. But Haman knew exactly what he was doing. He was manipulating the situation. Okay? Now watch this. I got a note here, family. Remember that once a law is signed with the ring of the king, it cannot be broken according to the law of the Medes and of the Persians. Okay, so let's read verse 12 now. Then were the king's scribes called. Here we go. Then were the king's scribes called on the 13th day of the first month. So in the month Nisan, which is the month Abib, on the 13th day. Family, don't we got to do something on the 14th day? Yeah, what we got to do on the 14th day in the month of Abib? We got to slaughter the lamb, right? Now check it out. Now see, this is the 13th day though. But remember, family, so this is happening to the Hebrews around the time of Passover, Pesach, right? Now check it out, family. And there was written according to all that Haman had commanded. Oh, wow. So Haman, he is so high up. He has been promoted, elevated so high up that King Ahasuerus has given him his ring, and you got Haman instituting a law to kill all the Hebrews from the palace, the king's palace, all the way to Ethiopia. Oh my goodness. Okay, but let's go on and let's read anyway, right? So this is what Haman's doing. Okay, family, so now we know that it was Haman who gave the commandment unto the king's lieutenants and to the governors that were over every province and to the rulers of every people of every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language. So, family, we see that Haman's hatred was so strong for Mordecai that Haman was going to make sure that it was written in multiple languages so that everybody would understand on this day you are to strike, kill the Hebrews. Family, oh, that's something right there. Now, okay, let's go on. In the name of King Ahasuerus was it written and sealed with the king's ring. Remember what I told you, family, about the law of the Medes and the Persians. Once it's signed with the king's ring, it can never be broken because that is the king's signet ring of power and authority. Okay, family, let's move on to the next time of sharing. Oh, but let me say this first, family. Family, what does this remind you of? Family, what does this look like to you? It looks like Haman is trying to elevate himself up to be like a pharaoh. To be like a pharaoh. Oh, family. Oh, it's going to get better. Let's get it. Let's go. Okay, family, so we're continuing on with Esther chapter 3. We're in verse 13. And the letters were sent by postas. So see, the post office is not something new, family. They had postal men and women back in ancient times too. Okay? Into all the king's provinces to destroy, to kill, and to cause to perish all Hebrews, both young and old, little children and women, in one day. In one day, family, even upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar, and to take the spoil of them for a prey. So not only was they going to kill them, the Hebrews, not only did Haman want the Hebrews dead, but Haman told the men that went to go kill the Hebrews, you know what, don't just kill them, steal all their stuff at the same time to take the spoils of it. Ain't that something, family? That is something right there. Verse 14. Now watch this. Look at Haman. The copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, that they should be ready against that day. Look, Haman didn't waste no time. He told those posters, look, listen, run to these different provinces speedily. Get there fast. Oh, family, that's something else right there. Look at the hatred of Haman. 15. The posters went out, being hastened. See, I told you, he told them to go speedily. Get there as fast as you can. By the king's commandment. It really wasn't King Ahasuerus. It was Haman. Because remember, Haman is the one that spoke the word to the king's scribes. Okay? And the decree was given in Shushan, the palace. And the king and Haman sat down to drink. But the city, Shushan, was perplexed. See, when they saw that was what was written, the Hebrews started getting upset, family, about what was written. And they was trying to figure out why. Why? They didn't know that Haman was willing to wipe out a whole race of Hebrews just to kill Mordecai. I'm going to say it again. Haman was willing to kill a whole race of the nation of Israel just to kill Mordecai. Now, family, did you catch that? Because that means that Mordecai is a foreshadow of Messiah, Yeshua. Mordecai is a foreshadow of Messiah, Yeshua. Family? Oh, family. If you don't catch that without me breaking it down to you, family, then I'm going to tell you something. You need to do more reading of the word of Yah. Because we not only do we see the example of a man, a woman that's a part of the remnant in the character of Mordecai, we also too see Messiah Yeshua. As Mordecai is an example, a certain type of Yeshua as well. Oh, family. Do you recognize the name of the city? Who else was in the city called Shushan? What other man of Yah was in the city Shushan, in the territory of the Medes? Family, do you know the answer to that question? Well, I'm going to answer that question for you. It's Daniel. Daniel was there too. And so was Nehemiah. All right, family, let's move on to the next time of sharing. Okay, family, I do feel the need to take the time out to explain to you how Mordecai foreshadows Messiah, and not just Messiah, but Mordecai foreshadows the remnant, the characteristics of the remnant, the warriors of Yah. Now, how does Mordecai foreshadow Messiah Yeshua. Family, you must realize this first, that every book that you read in the Bible, it will reveal Yeshua in some type of shape or form or fashion. Okay? Now, Mordecai is a shadow of Messiah in the fact that Herod sought out Messiah wanting to kill him. Haman sought out ways to kill Mordecai. That's how you have Mordecai being a type, a shadow of who Messiah is. Because Haman devised a plot, a scheme, a plan, and it was all to kill Mordecai. Mordecai was his main target. Herod did the same thing. He knew that Messiah was coming. And he told the Magi, who really are the people of the East, he told them, when you find the child, let me know so that I can come and bring gifts also too. But if they would have went back to Herod, Herod would have came with an army to kill Messiah while he was a baby. So that's how Mordecai foreshadows Messiah later on down the line when Messiah is born upon the face of this earth. Now, how does Mordecai foreshadow the remnant, the warriors of Yah that are getting ready to come forward? You're gonna discover this for yourself, family, as we continue to read. Mordecai was unyielding. He was unmoving. No matter what Haman did, he couldn't move Mordecai. He couldn't compromise with Mordecai. He couldn't get Mordecai to bend to his will. And that's what really pissed Haman off. Okay, family, so let's go on and continue with the time of sharing. Okay, let's get it. Let's go. Family, I apologize for the noise that you hear in the background. There's nothing that I can do about that. Okay, so now, Esther chapter 4, verses 1 through 3. Now, family, you're going to start this witness in the scriptures when Yah begins to raise Mordecai up. And Mordecai becomes a man of unyielding faith. Mordecai becomes a man of action. Mordecai becomes a man of perseverance. You're going to start to see it from this time going forward, family. Okay, let's get it. Let's go. Let's read. Esther chapter 4, verses 1 through 3. Mordecai hears of the bad report to kill all Israel. Okay, family? Now let's read. Verse 1. When Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes. He tore his clothes off his body and put on sackcloth and ashes. Who else put on sackcloth and ashes? Daniel did. Okay? And went out into the midst of the city. What city are we talking about here, family? We're talking about the city of Shushan. Okay? And look, and cried with a loud and a bitter cry. So that means Mordecai was wailing. How do you know Mordecai was wailing for a fact? Well, the scriptures tell you that it was a bitter cry that Mordecai cried. Now, let's read verse 2 and see what happens. And came Eve before the king's gate. So here you got Mordecai going back to the king's gate, right? Now check this out. For none might enter into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. So, okay, wait a minute. Mordecai is becoming defiant now. Mordecai went into the king's gate with full knowledge, knowing that he was not supposed to enter into that gate. Here we go. Verse 3. And in every province, whithersoever the king commanded, and his decree came, there was great mourning among the Hebrews, and fasting, and weeping, and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes. So wait a minute, you got a part of the remnant that's in Babylon with Mordecai, and what do? Well, they did the same thing Daniel and Nehemiah did. They started fasting. They started weeping before Yah. They started wailing before Yah. And they put on sackcloth and ashes. They was following the example of Mordecai, family. And they was doing it. All the Hebrews that were part of the remnant that were doing it, they was doing it with sackcloth and ashes on. Oh, here we go. Okay, let's get it. Let's go. Let's move on to the next time of sharing. Because now you're going to see Yah bringing Mordecai up higher levels. And Mordecai getting more arrogant. But arrogant in a good way. As Yah is raising Mordecai up, Mordecai, he's becoming very arrogant in unyielding faith. Okay, family, let's get it. Let's go. But let me say this, family, before I move on. I shouldn't say arrogant. That's not a correct word to use. I should say more defiant in what that he begins to do. And that's what you're going to see. He's becoming more defiant. not arrogant. So I just want to step in and I just want to make that correction. Okay, now let's move on. Let's get it. Let's go. Once again, family, I apologize for the noise in the background, but there is absolutely nothing that I can do about it. But keep moving on. Okay, family. On this time of sharing, on this presentation slide, you're going to begin to see Yah begin to raise Mordecai up. You're going to see just how more persistent Mordecai is. You're going to see just how moving in faith with actions Mordecai is. Family, I'm going to tell you something. You're going to see Mordecai be very indignant in a good way and put Esther in her place. And Esther is a queen. But Mordecai is going to put her in her place and remind her. And Mordecai is going to also too tell us something about if you don't do this, what's going to happen to you and your house. So Mordecai kind of rebuked her. All right. So that saying going around Israel that you cannot rebuke an elder, that's just not true. But it's the way that you go about rebuking an elder. You cannot rebuke an elder when the elder is in right standing. But you can rebuke an evil elder that's not walking according to the word of Yah. And believe me, family, I'm going to do a lesson about that. And I'm going to show you some examples from the Bible. Okay. Now let's get into it. Let's get back on Mordecai. Okay. Esther chapter 4, verses 4 through 11. The key verse is 8. And also to Esther chapter 4, verses 12 through 14. Okay, let's read. Number 1. Queen Esther receives word about her cousin Mordecai. Esther 4 and 8. Okay, so let's read it. Verse 8. And he gave him the copy of the writing of the decree. So let's stop right here. Remember, Mordecai was at the gate. So Esther, she heard about Mordecai, and she sent someone out to talk to Mordecai. And Mordecai gives Esther's servant a copy of what was written. Remember, it was the command of Haman, because Haman had King Ahasuerus' ring. And remember, the scribes were brought before Haman. Okay, so let's read it. Of the decree that was given at Shushan to destroy them. Who is the them? The Hebrew people. To show it unto Esther, and to declare it unto her, and to charge her that she should go in unto the king to make supplication unto him. Him is the king Ahasuerus. And to make request before him, King Ahasuerus, for her people. Okay, family? Now let's go on to 2, and then we're going to break it down. Number 2. Mordecai gives Queen Esther a warning. That's the rebuke. That she is not safe. That she is not safe because she is the king's wife and lives in the palace. Esther chapter 4, verses 12 through 14. Let's read it. Verse 12. Let's read. And they told to Mordecai Esther's words. Now watch Mordecai's response. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Hebrews. So Mordecai, look at this rebuke. Mordecai is telling Esther, listen, Esther, don't you think besides yourself that just because you the king's wife, that just because you live in the palace, that they not going to kill you too. In fact, they're going to come for you first because you are the wife of the king Ahasuerus. So Mordecai rebukes Esther right here. Now, family, one thing I want to point out to you that a lot of people miss. Esther did not know what was going on until it was made known to her by Mordecai each time that something happened. All right, family? She didn't know about it. Mordecai, Yah revealed it to Mordecai first, and Mordecai is the one who told Queen Esther. Yes, family, I said that, yeah. So we gotta, when we read the scriptures, we gotta read them properly. And we gotta focus in on what's going on. I'm telling you, family, when I was listening to the audio play of the book of Esther, it's like when I got to Mordecai, Yah just focused me in on Mordecai and had me really paying attention to what was being said about Mordecai. And then I went to the scriptures, and family, I was blown away by what Yah was showing me and by what Yah was teaching me about Mordecai. Because you see the tenaciousness of Mordecai. You see how even though Esther is a queen, Mordecai is very persistent in telling her, listen, don't think you're going to get away because you are the king's wife. Oh, family. Oh, okay, let's move on and let's finish reading what Mordecai said. Okay, family, we're continuing on. We're still in Esther chapter 4, but now we're reading verse 14. For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise. Check that out, family. Arise to the Hebrews from another place. Now, see, how did Mordecai know that? But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. See, family, I told you Mordecai rebuked Esther, and then he warned her. He told her what was going to happen to her and her father's house and her descendants, that she wasn't going to have no children. And who knowest whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? See, family, I told you, Mordecai, he rebuked Esther, and then he warned her. And mind you, Esther is a queen. She is at a higher level than Mordecai. But Mordecai was bold. Just like the remnant of Yah that's getting ready to come forth. They're going to be bold. Hallelujah. See, this is the characteristics of the remnant. They are bold. They don't care nothing about your position. They are unyielding in faith to Yah, and they go forward in faith and in action. Now, I made a note here. Mordecai was bold, unyielding, persistent, and he didn't back down or give up, not one bit. And that's the characteristics of the remnant that's getting ready to come forward. Oh, hallelujah to Yah. Okay, now let's read verse 15. Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer. Okay, so once Esther gets word of what Mordecai said, and Mordecai rebuked her and he warned her what was going to happen in the future to her and her house, that they would be destroyed. Her and her father's house, I should say, would be destroyed. She wouldn't have no more children. Then Esther sends a response, a reply to Mordecai. So let's read what the reply was in verse 16. Okay? Did I read verse 15? Yeah, I read that. Okay, so here's the reply in verse 16. Go gather together all the Hebrews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me. So wait a minute. Esther was like, whoa, wait a minute. My cousin Mordecai doesn't talk to me like this. He has never spoken to me like this before in my life. He's telling me that not only am I going to die, but I'm not going to have no children or anything. So then she says, oh, wait a minute. Let me send this response back to my cousin Mordecai. And she says, she's asking Mordecai to fast for her and to pray for her and the people that are following behind Mordecai, that remnant that's following behind Mordecai in faith and belief and boldness to Yah. Now, let's check it out. Now, check it out. Fast ye for me. We're still in verse 16. And neither eat nor drink 3 days. Uh-oh. Here go to 3 days. 3 days, nights, or day. Now, check that out. She's asking for Mordecai and the remnant, those believers that are with Mordecai, to fast and pray for her for 3 days. Now check this out. I also and my maidens will fast likewise, and so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law of the Medes and the Persians. And if I perish, I perish. So now, oh, wait a minute, now we got Esther. She took heed. She obeyed the words of her cousin Mordecai, because she recognized that Yah was working through Mordecai to save Israel. Right? Now check it out, right? Now verse 17. So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther had commanded him. So you got Esther and Mordecai sending forth replies of commands to one another. But you know what? When Mordecai sent that message to Esther, that shook Esther. That shook her. And she was like, whoa, wait a minute. Let me get them to fast and pray for me for 3 days and 3 nights. And everybody not going to eat. They're not going to drink. My house is going to do that. My maidens. And then Mordecai, my cousin Mordecai, and the people that are a part of the remnant in Babylon of the Hebrews that are following and walking in the way of Yah, they're going to do it also, because Mordecai, my cousin, is their leader. And then if I go unto the king, and if I perish, then I perish. But look what happened. Yah gave Esther favor. But I don't really want to talk about Esther unless I have to, because I'm focusing in on Mordecai. I want you to see Mordecai, the unyielding man of faith and action, because his characteristics are the characteristics of the remnant warriors of Yah that are getting ready to come forward. Okay, let's move on to the next time of sharing. Okay, family, we're back on Haman, because we're going to see something very interesting about Haman, so let's talk about it. Haman's hatred for Mordecai and the Hebrews was so strong that his power and wealth meant nothing to him in Babylon as long as he could kill all the Hebrews. Now, family, look at the mindset of Haman. Remember, Haman represents the world, the way that they look at us as the true Hebrews, family. Haman's position in the Babylonian kingdom right up underneath the king, being able to take the king's ring and sign things into the law of the Persians and the Medes. Haman's position as a great man in Babylon, the wealth that Haman had achieved in Babylon, it meant nothing to him as long as he could kill all the Hebrews and kill Mordecai. Because we got to remember, Mordecai was Haman's target. Mordecai was Haman's target, and he was willing to kill hundreds of Hebrews just in order to kill Mordecai. You got to look at that, family. Look at the mindset of Haman. That's crazy, family. Oh my goodness. But it's the same exact way the world hates us now. Okay, let's read Esther chapter 5, verses 9 through 14. Okay, verse 9, let's read, family. Then went Haman forth that day joyful and with a glad heart. Now see, family, let's stop and examine this right here, family. Haman was filled with pride, because he thought, in his mind, he thought that Esther was honoring him. Esther was acknowledging his position before King Ahasuerus. Haman didn't know that this was the payback. This was getting ready to be the payback, family. He was so blinded by pride, family, and by his status that he had in the Babylonian kingdom under King Ahasuerus. Okay, so let's finish reading. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, oh, here we go, Mordecai back at the king's gate again, that he stood not up. See, I told you, Mordecai was unyielding, nor moved for him. Mordecai wouldn't even move for Haman. Look at that persistence. Look at that unyielding. I will not move. I will not take the knee to you, Haman. You're not Yah. That's what Mordecai is saying. I only bow the knee to Yah Most High. Blessed be the name of Yah in the name of King Yeshua. So let's move on. Haman, check it out. He was full of indignation against Mordecai. Now see, family, that's not just a regular hatred that was going on there. That was not only a regular hatred, but it went beyond a natural hatred. It went into like a spiritual hatred that Haman had for Mordecai. And Haman's hatred was so strong for Mordecai that he was willing to kill all of the Hebrews just in order to kill Mordecai. And if you think about it, family, that's kind of like a deception at the same time, because Haman was willing to kill all of the Hebrews in the land, but his real target was Mordecai. Oh, family, that's something else right there. Okay, so let's read verse 10. Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself. Haman had to refrain himself. And when he came home, he sent and called for his friends, because he was going to brag. And Zeresh, his wife. Oh, that was the name right there. Now, verse 11. And Haman told them of the glory of his riches. Now, check that out, family. Haman was bragging on his wealth. He was bragging on his wealth. And the multitude of his children. Haman had a lot of children. And all the things wherein the king had promoted. Haman was talking about his status. Oh, man. And you know what? Israel be doing that too, and we need to get over that. And Haman was talking about how the king promoted him. And how the king had advanced him above the princes and servants of the king. Now remember, the king is King Ahasuerus of the Medes. Now look at that, family. Haman's status was so high that he was promoted even higher than King Ahasuerus' sons, who are the princes, and King Ahasuerus' servants. That's how high up Haman was. That's how much of a position of authority Haman had in the Babylonian kingdom. Let's move on to our next time of sharing, family, because it's going to get even better. Okay, let's get it. Let's go. Okay, family, so we're picking up on verse 12 now. We're still in the same chapter, but it continues. So let's watch Haman brag about how great he is. Now let's read verse 12. Haman said, moreover, yea, Esther the queen did let no man come in with the king unto the banquet that she had prepared, but myself. So Haman bragging on himself. And tomorrow am I invited unto her also with the king. Now see, look at that. He was so prideful that his pride blinded him as to what was really going on, family. So let's read verse 13. Yet all this availeth me nothing. See, I told you about Haman. Yet all this avail me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai, the Hebrew, sitting at the king's gate. Look at that. See, I told you that Haman's wealth, Haman's status, Haman's position, it meant nothing to him because of the hatred that he had for Mordecai until he killed Mordecai. Family, oh man, that's something else right there. 14, verse 14. Then said Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends unto him, the him is Haman, let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak thou unto the king, that Mordecai may be hanged thereon. Then go thou in merrily with the king unto the banquet. See, go in there with a joyful heart. But watch and see what happened to all those people that spoke against Mordecai. And the thing pleased Haman. See, Haman got joyful. He got happy over it. And he caused the gallows to be made. See, family, Haman took joy and pleasure in the fact that he was getting ready to kill Mordecai. And you're going to see exactly what's going to happen to Haman's wife, Zeresh, and his friends. Okay, now, number 3. Yahuwah, this is a note. Yahuwah makes a way out for Mordecai and causes his enemies to speak a blessing upon him. Esther chapter 5. Number 1. King Ahasuerus is troubled. Verse 1. Remember, family, when King Ahasuerus, he couldn't sleep one night. He was very troubled. So he called for the scribes to come to him, and they started reading what was in the law of the Medes and the Persians, and that's when it was brought back to King Ahasuerus remembrance that Mordecai saved his life. So King Ahasuerus got up and said, well, what's been done? What reward has this man Mordecai, who saved my life from my chamberlains, Bigthan and Teresh, that was trying to kill me? You see, Yah will always make a way. Yah will always make a way when you're walking in his way, will, and word. And King Ahasuerus found out that there was no reward given to Mordecai. So watch what King Ahasuerus do. Let's move on to the next time I share. Watch what King Ahasuerus does. Okay, family, for time, I'm not going to read all the scriptures. So I ask you to please go back and read the scriptures. I'm just going to talk to you about the event from off the top of my head. But the scriptures are right here on the screen for you to see, and go back and read them to see that every word I'm speaking to you, it is accurate and it's true. Okay, so the 7 points, we already read one of the points. Now let's read point 2. King Ahasuerus finds Mordecai's name in the book and wants to reward him. Verses 2 and 3 of chapter 5. Remember, family, I just spoke to you about it, family. Number 3. Haman, without knowing, it speaks a blessing upon his arch enemy Mordecai. Verses 4 through 12. You'll see that Haman thought when King Ahasuerus called Haman before him, and Haman came before King Ahasuerus, Haman thought that he was talking about himself. He thought that he was talking about himself. Because remember, King Ahasuerus said, I found a man who saved my life, and there was no reward given to him. And King Ahasuerus was like, Haman, I want to reward him. What should I do? Because Haman was like the king's advisor. But Haman was above the king's advisor. But it just goes to show you how much King Ahasuerus trusted Haman. So Haman was like, call for a horse to be brought, and give him a coat, and all this other stuff. Because Haman thought he was talking to himself, talking about himself. But you know what, family? When you stop and you think about it, look at this. Haman thought that he was the one that was going to get the reward, right, family? Absolutely, right? But it turned out that Haman winded up speaking a blessing upon Mordecai, his arch enemy. So even Yah will cause your enemies to speak words that bless you. When you're walking in the way, when you're walking in the will, and when you're reading, studying, and acting out the word of Yah, as we follow the example of our King, Messiah, Yeshua. Okay, so let's read 4 now. Haman's hatred towards Mordecai and the Hebrews blinded him to his doom. Verses 13 and 14. And that's so very true, family, because look what happened to Haman after Mordecai received that coat. And who else got a coat in the Bible? Joseph got a coat of honor, a coat of colors. Hey, Mordecai got the same thing. And Mordecai got put on the horse, and Haman had to walk Mordecai around, right? Haman was so enraged after he had to do that he was blinded yet again to his doom. He couldn't tell that this was all leading up to his doom because he wanted to kill Yah's chosen people. But his main target was Mordecai. Okay, 5. Esther intercedes for all of Israel and herself. Esther chapter 7, verse 1 through 6. We're not going to read it, family, but you go back and you read it. You'll see that Esther, once again, she's interceding. She's interceding. First, she already did the prayer and supplication. When let me rephrase that, family. Sorry for getting tongue-tied. First, she already done fasted and prayed 3 days and 3 nights before Yah, right? And then she went before the king, right? She spoke to the king. The king granted her request, right? Now, in chapter 7, you have Esther interceding on behalf of the whole of Israel. Yes, family. Yes, go and read it, family. Point number 6. Haman pleads to Esther for his life to be spared of the king Ahasuerus. Verse 7. Family, you know what? That is something. So I've been thinking about it, the words that Esther used when she was talking to the king. And then she said, this man Haman is guilty of it. And the king got so mad and so upset and stuff like that, because that's when King Ahasuerus realized that Haman had lied to him. And then not only that, King Ahasuerus, he went away. And then when he went away, because he was so mad, wherever he was, it wasn't too far away from where they were sitting down drinking wine and eating grapes and stuff like that. Because the scriptures let you know that he looked. And Haman was pleading for his life before Esther. But King Ahasuerus, he interpreted it as, who do Haman think he is putting his hands on my wife? Is he going to assault my wife? Is he going to try to kill my wife? This is my wife's people. This is who my wife is. And remember, he loved Esther. Okay, so and then point number 7. Haman receives the reward for his evil intentions towards Mordecai and the Hebrews. We're still in the same chapter, but chapter 7, verses 7 through 10. And we all know what happened to Haman. What was the end result of Haman? So I'm not going to go into that. But basically, Haman, his house, his wife, his sons and daughters, they all got the big payback. They all were hanged. Okay? So I have a note here, and it says, so we see that Haman's hatred for Mordecai led him wanting to destroy all Hebrews, and Haman was willing to lose everything that he had. And that's true. Haman was willing to lose everything that he had, his wealth, his position, everything, just to kill Mordecai. And Haman was, because he wanted to kill Mordecai so bad, Haman used a deception, a lie, to kill all the Hebrews just to get to Mordecai. Okay, let's move on to the next time, sharing, family. Okay, family, in the last couple of presentations, you saw the tenaciousness, the persistence, the perseverance of Mordecai unyielding in faith, family. Okay, now we're going to get into the time where Yah elevates Mordecai up to become the ruler in Babylon. Let's get it. Let's go. Okay, family. The rise, elevation of Mordecai in Babylon. Mordecai walks into his position of power as the second ruler. Did you know that Mordecai, Yah had raised him up to become the second ruler in Babylon? I bet you didn't know that, family. In command in a foreign country while in captivity in Babylon. Mordecai was the second ruler in the kingdom of the Medes, in the kingdom of the Babylonians, in the 137 provinces that was under King Ahasuerus. Yah raised him up to that position, to that status, while in captivity. Why? I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to say it with boldness. While in captivity, Mordecai was raised up to this level. But Mordecai wasn't the only one. Because, see, family, I got 3 more videos coming after this one to show you what was going on. Okay, now let's read it. Esther, chapter 8, verses 1 through 9. We're not going to read all the verses, but we're going to talk about it. So, point number 1. Mordecai receives the king's signet ring of power off of Haman's hand. Verse 2. Family, when King Ahasuerus had that ring taken off of Haman's hand, and it came to Mordecai, it stayed with Mordecai. It wasn't something that King Ahasuerus took back from Mordecai. King Ahasuerus, he let it remain with Mordecai. That's how much he trusted Mordecai. Because remember, the king was reminded that Mordecai had saved his life when he was just sitting at the gate. Oh, let's talk about it. Number 2, Mordecai. It should have been is given, but I put and given power, and it shouldn't be that. It should be Mordecai is given power. The king's letters in the king's name. Mordecai is given the power, family, to write letters in the king's name, just like Haman did. And when you continue reading the book of Esther, family, and then you go and read the book of Chronicles, you'll find out that Mordecai, he was setting laws into play in the kingdom of the Medes and the Persians. Once Mordecai commanded forth those letters, and the scribes wrote those letters, and Mordecai signed it with the king's signet ring, it stands forever, because remember, the laws of the Medes and the Persians cannot be changed. So some of them, those scrolls and those tablets that archaeologists are finding nowadays, some of them, Mordecai wrote them some of them things and signed it with the king's ring. I said it before, and I'm going to say it again. Some of those ancient artifacts that they're finding in the kingdom of the Medes and in the kingdom of the Persians, Mordecai wrote them and signed some of them with the king Ahasuerus' signet ring of power and authority in the kingdom. Yeah. Okay, so let's read verse 8. So this is what's going on, family, before we read verse 8. The plot is spoiled. Haman is dead. He's hanged. Him and his family and his wife. And Mordecai and Esther, they talk to the king Ahasuerus, and they try to figure out a way to break that law. But King Ahasuerus tells them he can't break it. So what King Ahasuerus tells Mordecai is, write a new law. Take the ring that I gave you, call for the scribes, write a new law into effect, and then sign it with my ring, and then send the word out speedily. And that's exactly what Mordecai does. Okay. Write ye also for the Hebrews, as it liketh you. So King Ahasuerus is giving Mordecai the charge to write the letter to all the Hebrews that are scattered in his 137 provinces. In the king's name. See, I told you he gave Mordecai the power to write in his name. And seal it. Family, I'm telling you, you better pay close attention when you see anything in the word of Yah in the Bible that says it was sealed. Pay close attention to it. And seal it with the king's ring. For the writing which is written in the king's name and sealed with the king's ring may no man reverse. Oh, family, didn't I tell you? Let's talk about it. Now, who is King Ahasuerus telling this to? King Ahasuerus is telling this to Mordecai. And you know that Mordecai, he's going to write to his people, pick up your arms on the 12th day in the month of Adar. Pick up arms and fight for your lives, Hebrews, scattered in the 137 provinces, from Shushan, the palace in the land of the Medes, all the way down into Ethiopia. That's where the Hebrews were. Family, let's move on to the next time of sharing. Let's go. But before we move on, family, let me just say this real quick, family. Who does Mordecai remind you of? Who does Mordecai remind you of in the Bible? Joseph. The answer is Joseph. Joseph was second in command. He was like the vice president of Mizraim. Now here you got Mordecai. Y'all raised him up to the level to become the vice president in the land of the Medes, in the land of the Babylonians, in the land of the Chaldeans, in the land of Israel, in the land of Egypt, in the land of Ethiopia. 137 provinces. Here is Mordecai, a Hebrew man of the tribe of Benjamin, running the kingdom of Ahasuerus as his right hand in command. Family. So we just destroyed that lie that Israel can't do nothing in captivity because Yah raised Mordecai up. Yah raised Mordecai up. He was the first one that Yah raised up in the Babylonian captivity, in the Medes captivity, in the Persian captivity. Mordecai was the first one raised up, but Mordecai had two other ones that followed his example. And I'm not going to talk about them now. I'm going to talk about them later on because I don't want to reveal that right now. But doesn't Mordecai remind you of Joseph? And remember, the Hebrews was not in hard bondage when they were in the land of Mizraim in the beginning. In the beginning, they didn't go into hard bondage until after Joseph and the king who knew Joseph, the Pharaoh that knew Joseph, died. Remember, I brought that out in my Joseph video. That's why you need to go and you need to listen to my Joseph video. Okay, family? So I just wanted to point that out to you. Now let's move on to the next presentation because it's going to get even better, family. Okay, family, so let's continue with the rise and elevation of Mordecai in Babylon when Yah raised Mordecai up. Let's continue. Verse 9. Then were the king's scribes called at that time in the 3rd month. Oh, family, here we go. Here we go, family. That is the month Sivan, on the 3rd and 20th day thereof. So on the 23rd day of the month Sivan, this is when Mordecai began to make it known, family. And I want you to know, I looked it up. The 3rd month, Sivan, in Hebrew is between May and June, family. Yeah, family. So let's continue on and let's read. Okay, I read that part, the 23rd day thereof. And it was written according to all that Mordecai commanded. Because remember, King Ahasuerus, he put Mordecai in command right under him, family. So now you got Mordecai making a law and commanding it forth with the scribes of King Ahasuerus of the seed of the Medes. Oh my goodness, family. So Mordecai commanded unto the Hebrews and to the lieutenants and the deputies and rulers over the provinces which are from India, I said, unto Ethiopia. Oh my goodness. 127 provinces. I said 137 before, family. I'm so sorry. I apologize. It's 127 provinces, family. So here you got Mordecai. King Ahasuerus has raised him up to the position even higher than what Haman had. All right? Y'all gave Mordecai that favor, right? So if Haman was still alive, Mordecai would be over Haman. Haman would be under Mordecai. Now watch this. Now look at that, family. Mordecai gave the command unto all the Hebrews and to the lieutenants that were in the army, family, and to the deputies and the rulers of the provinces. So out of those 127 provinces, there were princes and there were rulers. Mordecai was over all of them. And over the 127 from India unto Ethiopia, Mordecai commanded them. Oh my goodness. And this is not just talking about the Hebrews, because it said the deputies and rulers. So these are people that have the rule over that province area. Okay? Now let's read what Mordecai said. Unto every province, according to the writing thereof, and unto every people after their language. So everybody was to know about it. And they were speaking different languages, so it lets you know it's not only talking about the Hebrews, but it's talking about those foreign, those people that actually live in the land of India. Those people that live in the land of areas of Saudi Arabia. Those people that live in the land of Israel. Those people that live in the land of Mizraim. Those people that live in the land of Ethiopia. All that whole territory, family. Mordecai had the languages written to them, and also the Hebrews too. And look, here's the confirmation. And to the Hebrews according to their writing and according to their language. Verse 12. Upon one day in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, namely upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar. Remember, that was the month that Haman wanted all the Hebrews killed by the people who lived in those areas. So let's move on to the next time and share it, and let's see what Mordecai has to say about it. All right, let's get it. Let's go. Okay, family, so let's continue on, and let's examine the level that Yah had raised Mordecai to. Okay, family, so let's continue on. Verse 13. The copy of the writing of a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, and that the Hebrews should be ready against that day to avenge themselves of their enemies. Hold up, wait a minute, let's stop right there, family. So here you got Hebrews arming themselves against that day. They're picking up weapons, they're picking up swords, they're getting ready to go to war, family. And this is while they are in captivity. So let's stop that lie that Hebrews can't do nothing. Because here you got Hebrews right here in the land of their captivity, getting ready to arm themselves with weapons to fight against their enemies. So for those leaders in Israel and for those people in Israel that say that Israel can't do nothing while we're in captivity, well, verse 13 just destroyed the lie that you've been spreading, and you need to repent for that lie, because you're deceiving the people and you're holding Israel back from what Yah has in store for Israel and the job that Yah has for Israel to do. Okay, verse 14. Don't even get me started on that rant, because I'm so tired of that false doctrine being told in Israel. Here you got right here Hebrews arming themselves, and they're in captivity to fight against those people who want to kill them. All the way from India, Shushan in the palace, all the way to Ethiopia. Oh, my goodness. Verse 14. Don't even get me started on that rant. So the posts that rode upon mules and camels went out. Now the reason why I'm starting to laugh at the scripture I just read is because there's a Hebrew sister that I talk to, and you know, we sometimes we take the scriptures and we try to do it in today's terms, or we take the scriptures and we be like they was riding on mules and donkeys. You know, they had their flags, which are their banners of who they came from. She know who I'm talking. She know I'm talking about her, and I know she gonna be laughing when she hear this part, because we always talk about mules and donkeys in back in ancient time Israel, trying to explain it. You know. It's funny. Y'all got to hear us talking about it to understand what I'm saying. But I know she gets the joke. Okay, so let's read on. Being hastened and pressed on by the king's commandment. The king's commandment that was given by the mouth of Mordecai, that the scribes wrote down, and then Mordecai signed it with the king's signet ring of power. And the decree was given at Shushan the palace. So, oh, wait a minute. Now we got Mordecai. He in the palace now. Okay, and then I just wrote a little note right here. It says, who else was in the palace at Shushan? We know who else was in there, because I just told you before. Then I have a little note there. It was Daniel, and it was Nehemiah. So we see that Israel did have leaders while in captivity who ruled over Israel and foreigners, and that Mordecai was one of them. And now the lie must stop being taught and told to our people Israel today, because we see Israel arming themselves right now for war. All right, family, let's get it. Let's go. We only got maybe about 3 more slides to go, and then we're done. But look at the level that Yah raised Mordecai up to while in captivity. I'm gonna keep saying that, while in captivity, family. Okay, let's get it. Let's go. Okay, family, we are almost done, and then I'm going to share something with you, family. Okay, but let's continue. Verse 15. And Mordecai went out from the presence of the king. So wait a minute. Now Mordecai is in the king's presence in royal apparel of blue and white. Wait a minute. Now Mordecai got another robe on. Mordecai got a royal robe of blue and white. Oh, family. Wait a minute. But Mordecai is a Hebrew. Mordecai is a foreigner to these lands. Mordecai was brought there under force. Mordecai is in captivity. But look how Yah raised Mordecai up, to the point where even King Ahasuerus said, wait a minute, put a royal garment on him of blue and white, family. And watch this. And with a great crown of gold. Mordecai even received a crown on his head of gold. Now just imagine that. Mordecai in his afro. Mordecai got an afro. Or Mordecai got dreadlocks, and he got a crown on his head. This was given to Mordecai while he was in captivity, ruling over in a foreign land, the land of the Medes, who took over the land of the Persians, who took over the land of the Babylonians, who took over the lands, the countries as far as India to Ethiopia. Boom, I said that. Yes, I said that. Let's move on to the next time of sharing. And this all happened, family, because Mordecai refused to bow the knee. Mordecai stayed faithful to Yah. Mordecai was unyielding. Mordecai was persistent. Mordecai persevered. Mordecai overcame. Do you not see that this is Mordecai characteristics, is the characteristics of the remnant? Those men and women, boys and girls, that Yah is going to raise up in these last days. Look, Mordecai even gets a crown. The scriptures even talk about us receiving crowns. Family, come on now. Come on. You better walk like Mordecai walked and be faithful to Yah and stay true to Yah. Walk in the way of Yah. Live in the will of Yah and obey the will of Yah. All right, family, let's move on to our next time of sharing. Let's get it. Let's go. It's going to get even better with Mordecai. Let's get it. Let's go. Okay, family, let's continue on. Now let's see what the end results and the aftermath was that happened to Israel. Okay, family? Continuing on. Okay, the joy and gladness of the Hebrews. Okay, family, verse 16. We're still in the same chapter. Now we're in verse 16. The Hebrews had light and gladness and joy and honor. Now, family, when the Hebrews found out about this, when they found out that Mordecai was in power now, in the kingdom of the Medes and the Persians and Babylon, the burden that was on them from knowing that when the day in the month of Adar came along, they were going to be killed. Now that burden lifted off of our ancestors, and they had lightness and gladness and joy and honor. They honored Mordecai, family. Now note, I got a note here. Yah lifted the burden of the Hebrews by Mordecai. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what Yah did. So let's read verse 17 now. And in every province and in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, that's King Ahasuerus, the Hebrews had joy and gladness, a feast, and a good day. So they started feasting, family, and they was having a good time. Because now they knew that they could pick up arms and defend themselves. They couldn't just be walking down the street and a foreigner, a Mede or a Persian or a Egyptian or Ethiopian kill them. They couldn't do that because they were going to be scared because they had armed themselves, family. So they had joy and gladness. And many of the people of the land became Hebrews. So now, family, you got these foreigners that the Israelites are in their countries being held captive for, remember, that's 70 years. Now they see what happened, and they see how Yah, the Elohim, Most High of the Hebrews, done raised up one of his servants to be right next to King Ahasuerus. They start to believe, and you got these foreigners now. They become Hebrews. Just like what happened down in Mizraim, right? Because our ancestors didn't come out of Mizraim by themselves. No, they did not. But there were those of the Mizrites that believed in Yah. And they followed Israel out of Mizraim. So now you got the same thing happening right here. You got many of these foreigners from the land of India on down to Ethiopia. They see Mordecai, and they see how Yah raised them up, and they believe now. Look at this, but look what Yah did concerning Mordecai. Now watch this. For the fear of the Hebrews fell upon them. Oh, wait a minute. Only Yah can do that. The fear of the Hebrews fell upon them. Who is the them? The them is the ones that was living in the lands, the indigenous people that Israel was in their lands being held captive under the Babylonian, the Persian, and the Medes captivity. So let's read Esther 9 now. That just makes you want to say, hallelujah, Yah. You took our ancestors, Yah, from almost being slaughtered to raising them up to defend themselves, to raising them up, that even the foreign lands that our ancestors were in at that time, feared the Hebrews. And also, too, family, I want you to take note. Now I'm getting ready to drop a golden nugget right here, family, and I want you to take note of it. The golden nugget that I'm getting ready to drop to you right now, family, is from India to Ethiopia. All of those countries that King Ahasuerus had to rule over, they knew who the Hebrews were, and the Hebrews knew who they were. So that is the near that King Solomon is talking about in the scriptures. Yes, that's the near, family. Yeah, I said that. Drop that golden nugget. Hallelujah to Yah Most High in the name of our King Yeshua. Let's read Esther 9 and 3. Verse 3. And all the rulers of the provinces and the lieutenants and the deputies and officers of the king is King Ahasuerus. Look at this, family. Look what Yah caused. Look what Yah made happen. Helped the Hebrews. I'm going to say it again. They helped the Hebrews. So now they went from wanting to kill them to now helping our ancestors. Now watch this, watch this. Because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them. So not only was they afraid of our ancestors, the common people of Judah, Levi, and Benjamin, now they were greatly afraid of Mordecai. Only Yah can do that. Only Yah can bring fear upon a person that they dare not talk about you. Only Yah can bring fear upon a person that when you walk in the room, they got to get out the room. Only Yah can do that. Only Yah. Let's move on to the next time of sharing. But I told you it got good and it's going to get even better. Because look at what Yah did. Because Mordecai was unyielding. This is the characteristics of the remnant that's getting ready to come forward from Yah, family. Oh, let's go to the next time of sharing. Let's continue to talk about it, family. The rise of Mordecai in captivity. Yeah, so let's get it. Let's go. Yah raises Mordecai to become a great man in Babylon. Esther 9 verses 4. Verse 4. For Mordecai was great in the king's house, and his fame went out throughout all the provinces, 127 provinces. For this man Mordecai waxed greater and greater. Will you look at that? Wait a minute. Whoa, hold up. Wait a minute. Let's put some truth in it. Look at that, family. But wait a minute. Mordecai is a Hebrew, a man of Yah that's walking in the way of Yah, in captivity. I said in captivity. And he becomes not just great, but he waxed greater and greater. Oh, family, come on now. Come on now. And everybody knew about Mordecai from India all the way down to Ethiopia. Oh, family, come on now. And this is why Mordecai is in captivity. All right, let's continue on and read. Oh, this is getting good. And we're coming to the end, too. Mordecai commands the Hebrews. Esther chapter 9 verse 20. And Mordecai wrote these things and sent letters unto all the Hebrews that were in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, both near and far. Because remember, the Hebrews, they were scattered everywhere. Well, I shouldn't say scattered, but they lived in the province of King Ahasuerus from the land of India all the way down to Ethiopia. All right? Yeah, there you go. That's the near that King Solomon was talking about. Okay, let's go on. Mordecai is given power to speak and write for King Ahasuerus. See, remember I told you how much King Ahasuerus trusted Mordecai. Okay, now let's read Esther 9 verses 29. Then Esther, the queen, the daughter of Abihail, and Mordecai, the Hebrew, wrote with all authority to confirm this second letter in Purim. And family, did you hear that? Mordecai and Esther join together now, and they write with all the authority of the king Ahasuerus unto all of the 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia. Letters. to the Hebrews, family. Oh, family. And this is, dun, 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 while they're in captivity. While they're in captivity, they're doing this, family. Oh, let's get it. Let's go. Let's move on to the next time of sharing. I'm about to have a fit up in here, family. Because now the lie has been destroyed. It's over with, family. You can have leaders in Israel while in captivity, family. Not only that, but in this captivity that we're in right now, we can have leaders that have positions in a strange land of authority, like the mayor, the councilman, the councilwoman, the governor, the U.S. Senate. Family, we can have leaders like that. And if we vote them in and we see that they're not walking according to the will, the word, and the way of Yah, then we vote them out. Family, but we can have leaders. Stop lying to the people, because that is not what the word of Yah teaches. More raise, more rise. Let's get it. Let's go, family. I'm so tired of the lies that hold our people down. That's the reason why our King Yeshua also too said, beware of the leaders, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the scribes. You got some Hebrews out here in the Hebrew community, and they're leaders, and they're nothing but Pharisees, Sadducees, and scribes. And I will stand up and be unyielding like Mordecai was, and tell you, stop lying to the people. Because you sit back, family, and you listen to these mores. Meanwhile, our people are being killed in the streets. The blood of our people is spilling onto the street, and the earth is soaking in the blood of our people. Some of them are not innocent, but some of them are innocent. That these Gentiles and these heathens are out here killing our people. And you got these mores making you believe that there is nothing you can do, when Yah shows you right here by the example of Mordecai and by the example of the Hebrews picking up arms, that you can do something. You can stand up for our people. You can't let these Gentile leaders in America and in Europe know, and also too in Africa know, that no, you know what, we're going to get rid of you because you corrupt. You're not for our people. You're corrupt. And the killing of our people is going to stop, because we're going to stand up. We're going to protest. We're going to show up at your office, councilman, woman, United States Senator. We're going to show up and we're going to protest. Oh, family, look at the example of what our ancestors were doing. Now, family, I'm telling you something. A couple days ago, I was talking about this, and I said, you know what? Show me a time in our history where our ancestors didn't stand up. Show me one time. Show me one time. Even in the days of Mordecai. Even in the days of when Israel was in Mizraim. Even in the days of slavery. Even in the days of Jim Crow. Even in the days of segregation. Even in the days of in the 70s and the 80s. We had those that were in our community, whether if they was awakened Hebrews or still sleeping Hebrews. They rose up against what was being persecuted against our people. They saw our people being persecuted, and they rose up, and the persecution stopped. But this generation right here is the most cowardly generation of all, because there is no one that wants to stand up. Family, it's the most scared bunch of Hebrews ever. And I'm telling you right now, family, Yah has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And when Yah tell you to stand up, you better stand up like Mordecai. You better stand up like Mordecai. You better stand up like our ancestors stood up and fight back. Because you see, when they were in Babylon, did Yah come through with plagues? No. Did Yah come through with a judgment at that time that they were fighting back? No, Yah used Mordecai. But there is a time where Yah did pronounce a judgment upon Babylon and upon the kingdom of the Medes and the kingdom of the Persians, but it wasn't that time. So if Yah never told our ancestors before, when they were in Babylon, to just sit down and let them do anything to you, Yah not saying it now. Yah is not for the mistreatment of his people. That's why the big payback is coming, because they mistreated our ancestors. And Yah is not for it now. So rise, Israel. Stand up. Stop talking about you lions and your lions and lionesses and playing tough guy on social media sites. But then when the fire get hot and the grease start cooking in the frying pan, you sitting back like a little cub sucking on a lioness tit. Oh yeah, I said that. And I said that strongly. I said it strongly. Because I'm not backing down, Israel. I'm going to do what y'all tell me to do. And I'm going to say what y'all tell me to say. And I don't care nothing about your feelings. I love you, but let me tell you something. It's better for me to tell you the truth and you wake up to what y'all want you to do than to sit back and lie to you like some of these mores and moras in Israel and you wind up going to hell. Yeah, I said that. Because, see, I tell them boldly to their faces. Because don't no Moreh, don't no Morah in Israel scare me. Because I got the characteristics of Mordecai in me. And I say stuff boldly. And I mean what I say, and I say what I mean. And some of you, Morehs in Israel, and some of you who are under those Morehs in Israel, you know for a fact that I say what I mean, and I mean what I say. Because I ain't scared of you either. I'm going to do what the Most High Yah commands me to do. And the Most High Yah told me, speak when I tell you to speak, shut up when I tell you to shut up, and declare it in their faces. Yah told me personally, do not be afraid of them, because they will not harm me and they will not hurt me. And all I needed was for Yah my Elohim to tell me to walk in the calling that he's called me in, and to speak when he tell me to speak, shut up when he tell me to shut up, and study. All I needed was for Yah to tell me that, and for me to stop running from the calling that Yah has called me into. I stand boldly now, like Mordecai stood boldly, and I will not be moved by no more Ray in Israel, by no more Ra in Israel, by no common person in Israel, and definitely not by this world. Because I'm a pilgrim and a stranger walking through this land. This is not my home. Okay, family, let's continue on. Family, I have to say this. Sometimes that boldness just rises up out of my ruach, and I got to declare what y'all said. Family, I love you, family, but I would rather tell you the truth in boldness and your life be saved than to tell you a falsehood and have you believe in a falsehood. And then when Messiah come back and Messiah is judging us, you wind up going to hell over a lie out of man's wisdom for Mores and Moras in Israel. No, family, I love you enough to tell you the truth, and I love you enough to speak boldly to you. Don't get it twisted. Okay? So let's go on. Esther chapter 10, verse 1. And the king Ahasuerus laid a tribute upon the land and upon the isles of the sea. So look at this. Look what King Ahasuerus does. After all of that, and after Israel defends themselves, King Ahasuerus has a tribute. Verse 2. And all the acts of his power and of his might, and the declaration of the greatness of Mordecai. Oh my goodness. Look at this. All of the acts that Mordecai did. All of the power and the might that Mordecai had. And the declarations of the greatness of Mordecai, whereunto the king advanced him, the him is Mordecai. Are they not written in the book of the chronicles of the kings of the Medes and Persians? Family. So the greatness of Mordecai, Yah documented his greatness in Yah's own word, and then Yah also too had it to be documented in the book of the kings of Media and Persia. Family, will you look at that? Look how much Yah elevated Mordecai. Look how great Yah made Mordecai. In captivity, family. Verse 3. For Mordecai the Hebrew was next unto King Ahasuerus. See, I told you that's how high Mordecai, Yah raised Mordecai up to be. And great among the Hebrews, and accepted of the multitude of his brethren. So Mordecai gained acceptance, family, seeking the wealth of his people and speaking peace to all his seed. Okay, wait a minute. Hold up. Hold up. Wait a minute. So Mordecai, he sits at the hand of the king. Mordecai has a special royal garment that is given to him of blue and white. Mordecai receives a crown on his head. Mordecai is in captivity. But then the greatness of Mordecai is declared, of his acts, of the deeds that he did, of his power and of his might. Okay, so wait a minute. Let's talk about it. Now, Mordecai is in captivity. Mordecai becomes a ruler. He's like the second in command. He's like the vice president of the land, right? Under King Ahasuerus, who will be the president. Mordecai is writing laws into place. Okay. Do you think that he mistreated his brethren? When Mordecai was writing these laws into place, do you think that he said to himself, wait a minute, we're going to have this for the Medes, we're going to have this for the Persians, we're going to have this for the people in India, we're going to have this for the people of Ethiopia, we're going to have this, that, and the other for various countries. And then he turned around and mistreated his people? I don't think so. I don't think so. Who else did the same thing that Mordecai did? Joseph did. Joseph took care of his brethren, just like Mordecai took care of all of the Hebrews while in captivity in a foreign land. Mordecai wasn't writing one law for this group of people and one law for that group of people, but Mordecai was making sure that the Hebrews were taken care of while in captivity. And let me tell you something. Let's stop and examine this. Were the Hebrews in captivity? Were they in hard bondage in Babylon? Were they slaves in Babylon? I think you better go back and read the book of Esther, Nehemiah, Ezra, and Daniel. I think you better go back and read those books. Because they was moving all throughout. Excuse me, family. They was moving all throughout the kingdom. Under King Ahasuerus, under Nebuchadnezzar's son, and also too under Cyrus. They was moving throughout that kingdom. And let me tell you something. When you are taken into slavery, you are told where you're going to live at. Yeah, you're told where you're going to live. You're told what you're going to eat. You're told when you're going to get up and when you're going to go to sleep. But wait a minute, I tend to remember a scripture in the book of Daniel that talks about when the Hebrews, and also too in Chronicles, when the Hebrews are taken into the land of Babylon, they're going to buy houses. Wait a minute, how you going to buy a house when you're a slave? So y'all better re-examine what was going on with the Hebrews when they were in captivity in Babylon and in Media and in Persia. You better re-examine that, because if you're a slave, you're not buying no house. Huh? Yeah, hello, boom, I dropped that bomb. Yeah, that was me. All right, family, this is our last slide, our last time of sharing. Now, family, so I think you better re-examine those scriptures and go and read them books again, and then go in Chronicles and read Chronicles, family. Because Israel was kicked out of our homeland because of the abominations that our ancestors was doing. And because they wouldn't listen to the correction that Yah was trying to give Israel. And Yah got fed up and he said, you know what, here's the boot. Get on out. And Yah drove us, and Yah had them come and get us and bring us up into Babylon. But even in Babylon, they was buying houses. You don't buy no house when you a slave. And they was farming the land, and they was moving all throughout, from India to Ethiopia, family. All right, family? So I think you better re-examine how Israel was really living up there in Babylon. And then right after Israel went into Babylon, look what happened. Yah raises up Mordecai right after that. Because see, how do you know that Mordecai is in the beginning of the captivity? Well, you know that because you see it's recorded of Mordecai going into Babylon. And you know that Daniel, Ezra, and Nehemiah are after, because during the time of Daniel is somewhere in between, family. But then, oh, I don't want to drop that bomb. But then you read about Ezra and Nehemiah during the time that Israel was coming out of Babylon. That's how you know that Mordecai and Esther are before the time of Daniel, Nehemiah, and Ezra, family. But I'm going to share something with you. I told you I had something special for you, and I do, and it's coming up right now. Let's get it. Let's go. Okay, family, this is the dessert that I said I had for you when we were talking, and I want you to go back and study this, and you must come to your own conclusion, family, on this one. Okay, here, right here, you see the man that's dressed in the green. He represents King Ahasuerus. You already know that's going to be Esther. But that third person that's sitting right there, that's what I want to talk about. All right, now look how he's sitting, which lets you know that he is a king. Okay, but let's go on. Let's read Esther 1 through 3, and then we're going to skip to verse 14. Okay, now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, this is Ahasuerus, which reigned from India even unto Ethiopia over 107 provinces. So that's 127. Verse 2. In those days, when the king Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan the palace, verse 3, in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all his princes. Remember that, princes, and his servants, the power of Persia and Media, the nobles, so that's the high royal family, and princes of the provinces, being before him. Okay? Verse 14. Now we skip down to verse 14. And the next unto him was, these are his sons who are princes. Okay, I'm not gonna go through all their names, but because that would be a real whopper for me to try to pronounce all their names at the same time. I know I would mess it up. So you go back and you read it, okay? But let's skip past the names, and let's pick up right here. The 7 princes of Persia and Media. Now this is the key right here. Which saw the king's face. They was able to stand before King Ahasuerus and look at him in his face, because they are his children. And which sat the first in the kingdom. They sat at the highest level in the first place, family. Now let's move on to the next time of sharing, because I'm getting ready to drop a bombshell right here. Okay, let's get it. Let's go. Okay, Daniel chapter 9, verse 1. Verse 1. In the 1st year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, of the seed of the Medes, which was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans. Now Daniel chapter 5, verse 3, and then we're going to break it down. Okay. And Darius, the Median, took the kingdom, being about 62 years old. 62 years old. Now I want to ask you a question, family. Who is Darius really? Who is he really? We know that he is the son of King Ahasuerus. But who is his mother? Oh, did I say that? Yes, I did. Darius' mother. Now, we already done read about the children that he had before. And King Ahasuerus did not name Darius in that group. So either Darius is the son of Queen Vashti, or either Darius is the son of Queen Esther. Because he wasn't born at that time. He was born afterwards, family. After all that stuff went down with Mordecai and Esther and Haman. Darius was born after the time. And if you notice, it says he was 62 years old. So wait a minute, that's under the time frame that Israel was in Babylon. So who is Darius' mother? Esther. So Darius, he's not counted as a Hebrew because his father is King Ahasuerus of the seed of the Medes. But his mother is Esther. Oh yeah, I said that, family. Now let's go back and research it. Go back and research it, family, and you come to your own conclusion. Because remember what Mordecai told Esther. Remember what he told Esther. He said your seed is going to get cut off from your father's house. You're going to be destroyed. But we know that Esther obeyed the words of Mordecai, which meant that Esther survived. Right, family? And then you really don't too much hear about Esther anymore. But we know that Esther didn't have any children at this time. But it didn't say nothing about afterwards. And it's awful funny that Darius, he's within inside that time frame. And he's Ahasuerus' son during the time frame that King Ahasuerus was married to Esther. Stop and think and go back and research who King Darius really is. Okay, family. Oh, all right, family. I love you so much. Let's pray, family. Yah, in the name of Yeshua, I pray that everyone that you lead to this video and that hears this video, Yah, that they receive understanding from you, Yah. Yah, that they rise up like the Ruach of Mordecai, Yah, to seek your face, to be unyielding, getting the job done that you have for Israel to do, Yah Most High, in the name of King Yeshua. Yah, I pray that Israel rise up with the Ruach of Mordecai, the Ruach of Daniel, the Ruach of Nehemiah, the Ruach of Ezra, the Ruach of King David, to get the job done for you, Yah, in your strength, Yah, in your courage, Yah, in your will, Yah, in the name of King Yeshua. Yah, Most High, Mighty One of Israel, in the name of Yeshua, turn the light bulb on, Yah, in their ruachs, so that they can hear your word spoken in this time of sharing, and that they do your word in the name of King Yeshua. Yah, I ask you to bless each and every one of them that hear this video, Yah. Give them understanding, Yah Most High. Forgive us, Yah, for our sins and for the sins of our fathers' houses. And have mercy upon us, Yah Most High. In the name of King Yeshua, cause your face to shine on Israel once again, and show Israel of your goodness and of your might and of your strength. Yah, strengthen us. Yah, in the name of King Yeshua, be no longer anger. Be no longer angry with Israel, Yah. And remember how much you love Israel. And turn to us, Israel, your people again. And bring us out of these foreign lands where we were scattered to. In the name of King Yeshua. Family, have a beautiful day. I love you so much. I love you so much that I'm going to tell you the truth. In the name of Yeshua, have a beautiful day, family. Blessed be the name of Yah Most High, Mighty One of Israel. In the name of King Yeshua. Shalom.